give a brief what we want to discuss? I know we talked about today the possibilities of going to a single story station right on Park Street.
Yeah, so we want to go over the possibilities, the feasibility of uh, a single-story fire station at Park Street, keeping in mind the cost and balancing the costs with a single-story versus a two-story with the site development and how that would work out in the long run. Um, and we'd like to kind of see what the civil engineers have to say. Let me turn that down. Um, is Lisa, you online?
I am.
All right. Do you want to say anything about that since like you're the engineer and you know more about it than I do?
Yeah, well, I guess I had some concerns with the two-story building. I don't know if you want me to go through those now or if you had something prepared ahead of time.
No,
Um,
I don't. I don't think we need to really hear your concerns. But I would like to maybe just let Lorero go into their proposal between one and two story. I know the building committee is well aware of your concerns. And if we need to discuss those at the end of Lorero's presentation, I think we can do it then,
okay.
if that's okay.
Yep, that's what I was asking. If they have a presentation, let's do that.
All right, Tom?
All right, Brian, I know you've been more heavily involved on this, so I'm gonna let you steer this.
Yeah, I mean, Chief, we haven't really put together a presentation in terms of offering our thoughts on which avenue would be better. But I think we've shared with you in the past, some preliminary layouts and costs based off of the two-story structure layout and making adjustments to work that into a single-story structure. We ended up with a two-story building. We had reined in on the square footage a little bit, tightening up. And I think we ended up somewhere in the ballpark of 18,500 square feet. In order to take a look at the single-story structure, we basically took a look at that and we took out the vertical circulation elements and basically said, well, um, while the square footage might increase or decrease a little bit on circulation, corridors, et cetera, we know that we're not going to have the elevator, we're not going to have the stairs, and utilize that as a basis. We then kind of went in and took a look at the differentials in costs between the amount of roofing, the amount of foundation walls, and try to come up with our best guess. And while the square foot costs for a single story, a two-story structure were different, ultimately they ended up being pretty close dollar-wise. One thing that is not taken into consideration, because it obviously is still pretty preliminary, is any cost associated with uh, relocating the primary uh, feeder that runs through that side of the property. Obviously, we haven't taken any consideration the wetlands or mitigating wetlands at this point. It was really more of a high level look between the two. Based off of that, not having a layout of a single story structure, it seems as though by the time you add in potentially relocating that primary conduit, the cost for the single story structure would be greater. And while the design is very preliminary and Kurt and Ellis are on, it is very early on in the process. That's kind of where we left it in the last bit of information that we shared. I'm not sure if there's a desire to or preferred on the building committee side for a single story or a two-story structure. Um, you know, Obviously that may weigh in a little bit on, do you spend a little bit more money or not, one way or the other, to accommodate your desires or your needs for growth and um, that kind of thing. I mean, so at a high
All
level,
right.
that's kind of where we left it.
All right. I think this is a perfect time for Lisa to, why don't you raise your concerns and or questions with the engineers so that, because at the building committee meeting, um, what she brought to the table seemed very logical to the building committee, and that's why we're having this meeting today. So, Lisa, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. My biggest concern with the two-story building is that we have compressible soils that the geotech report, summarizes, and their geotech was based on a single-story building. And they're saying we've got 3,000 PSF that we're counting on, and that's pretty low. And they talk about an inch settlement and a half-inch differential settlement after construction. And I think our general thought was we were going to be going with masonry, which shows anytime you have settlement, you're going to see it in masonry. But I also went through where I added up the square footage. I'm not sure how to, can I share my screen somehow if I have a file up?
Yeah, you should be able to, next to the leave button on the top right.
Share? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Screen, right? Okay, let me see. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so I have a little spreadsheet here where I added up the total upstairs minus all the hallways, and I got about 2,900 square feet. And then I looked at the first floor reduction, which is what you were talking about, your elevators, your stairways, and all that. And I got a reduced area of 724, which leaves us like a net area of about 2,200 that we're trying to put on the first floor. And then you got to have hallways. So I just kind of ballparked it at a 2,500 square foot addition downstairs. And when I looked at that, okay, there's the first floor reduction area. There's the second floor areas. I did look at the soils report, and obviously you can't go to the back, towards the back of the building, but towards the front, where when you had shown when we asked you to show a proposed single story, you were going towards the front of the building as well, so that we don't have the over excavation for that additional area. So I essentially figured out that you could put a 2,500 square foot addition somewhere towards the front. You would lose some of that parking, but you could put a couple handicap spaces there, and you could shift your parking area a little bit to accommodate that. And my main thing was eliminating square footage and the concern of a two-story building, especially if we want to go masonry. I'm not sure that I'm not comfortable with the settlement of a two-story building. Now, obviously you must have a geotech team on. So, has that been discussed? I guess.
It has not, Lisa. We have not dug back into the geotech as we're working through this. It's something where we've been kind of floundering for, I don't know, better part of close to 3 months now on 1-story versus 2-story. So we've been kind of like on the outskirts trying to figure out if the building committee wanted a 2-story structure or wanted a 1-story structure. So we haven't circled back around. If it's the desire to be a 1-story structure, all of that kind of goes away, and it's for naught. We could take a look at it, but we haven't really. We've been kind of every time we coordinate with the chief, it seems like we're going to go this way, and then maybe not. We're going to go that way, and then we're going to go back again. So we've been kind of like just haven't been motivating along too much over the last couple of months at this point.
Okay, I guess I'll state my opinion of what the committee wants is we're looking for a cost-effective building. And I guess we were told that you said that the single story was going to cost way more than a 2-story, and I couldn't visualize that in my estimating, because you're adding square footage for stairwells and elevators, which add cost.
Yeah, I mean,
to try to not put it on the first floor. You know, the 2,500 square feet is not it's not the end of the world to put it on the first floor.
yeah, I mean, site work alone, the site work contractor right now, and again, this is all like high level. He was about $350,000 extra just to accommodate the single story structure, dealing with the grades and the excavation, backfill, cuts, fills, etc. Um, we have not taken in consideration relocating the primary wire. I know you have shown the addition going off in the front. I think it might end up being a little bit bigger than what you show. And some of our conversations with the chief didn't necessarily think that we wanted it to push that close to the street right on the front of the building and kind of maintain that parking area. So we were thinking at the time it would go a little bit more off to the side. Um, um,
Well, if it goes up to the side, obviously that costs more because we're into the over excavation and soils.
yeah.
And I did notice you shifted the building a little bit to the west from the original edge of the garage. Maybe it's like 5 feet. I'm just estimating. Why did we do that?
I don't think the location is that set in stone and within a 5 foot plus or minus. And Kurt and Ellis, you guys can jump in here if you want. It was more of you know, it's in this area. I know they've been working on getting grades and kind of working on the background mapping, if you will. Kurt, Ellis, you want to chime in on that in terms of accuracy at this point? I think it's not
Sure.
quite there yet.
There's that expansion parking on the east side. And to center that around the utilities rather than trying to relocate them, there's that kind of U-shaped driveway.
Yep.
And that kind of pushes everything a little bit further west. I mean, you've got to have room for a staircase between the parking for the door on the east side of the building.
Okay. Okay, so you're envisioning we're not bringing the parking lot up to grade. That'll be a lower level at like 438 or something like that.
Yeah, that would be a ton of fill.
Yeah. You're looking at a floor elevation of 442?
I'm not sure offhand.
Well, I think that's what the existing is about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I wasn't looking at trying to change the parking area other than you might have to tweak the entrance a little bit based on a, you know, if we're putting an addition towards the front. But I mean, the layout of it, obviously I'd leave to you, but if we were under the impression that this extra cost was based on an over excavation and all of that, which I don't think we need to do if it goes to the front of the building. And I am concerned about settlement. That's a big concern that I have. But I'm not a geotech, but when I read the geotech, you know, it was based on a single story. And it didn't know our building materials at that time. Now, if we have to change building materials to make it work, then I guess that's okay. But I think masonry is probably the most durable.
Yeah, masonry would be nice on the first floor for sure. You know, at some point, if it was a two-story structure, when you step back, I mean, I think we have some flexibility there to play around with design considerations, whether it's masonry or some other material that may be a little bit lighter. Ellis, you had just said something. I wanted to circle back around to it.
The expanded parking or that staircase?
No, the parking out front. So if we're gonna have a handicap or two handicap spots out front, you need some turnaround space as well, right? To be able to back out and get out and address the street approach as well. How much room there do you think we really have for potentially?
Not much. I was actually just going to ask if anyone had talked about parking that backs out into the street, because that front extension really doesn't leave much room for any kind of, well, certainly not a turnaround, but like maybe you could fit a T-shaped accessible parking. That would be really tight.
I'm gonna put my screen back on if I can figure it out. Can you hang on? Can you see my screen right now?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh, I didn't hit the screen button. I'm not used to Teams. I'm used to a different one. Now can you see it?
Yep.
All right. So, I mean, I just drew a box. That doesn't mean that there's, no area a little bit to the back where it looked like we might have put a patio or something back there. But it's probably possible. You had an in here. I don't know if you see my cursor at all. You have the entrance right there as well. It may be a way to make it a loop, but you obviously can't have two entrances at the same spot.
Yeah, that for the expansion parking, we could probably curve that a bit more to avoid the building. Obviously, it's getting pretty close. Generally, you want at least 5 to 10 feet away from the building for your that parking out front.
Yeah.
And then you're going to need at least a 5-foot turnaround. You've got 16 feet just for the parking space in the access aisle. That would be tight. So what about expanding the building further to the west? In my latest layout, I've actually got, there's that driveway around the island to the northwest, or plan northwest.
Yep.
I've got that cut off in order to fit in like 5 or 6 more parking spaces.
Mm-hmm.
We've got that driveway to the west side. If we could possibly expand the building to the west, that might give us more square footage, because otherwise that area is not doing a whole lot. I mean, as long as we can use the adjacent property to access the bays.
So I don't think the town of Northfield's going anywhere anytime soon. But at the same time, if they do decide to move their facilities to Sergeant Street or off of Sergeant Street, we would still have to strike a deal with the town of Northfield to probably purchase that property so that we could maintain access to that side of the building, because in the current design, that apparatus room has emergency vehicles exiting out that westernmost exposure doors. And so
yeah,
we
perhaps
still need
you could get an
out
easement.
that way. Yes, that would have to be perpetual.
Yeah.
It wouldn't, and that's something I don't think we've had a discussion. I would have to have a discussion with the select board and about that. I don't think there'd be a problem. I don't think, but I don't, I haven't talked to them about it.
The other thing I wondered, do you guys know that you don't need to meet building setbacks, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
One thing too, Lisa, I want to circle back around on is square footage. I believe, Joe, we had that first floor shown at roughly 12,500 or so. And if we add the 2,500 square feet, that puts us at about 15,000 square feet. I
Yep.
do think we're going to end up to be a little bit strong of that 15,000. I think we're going to be pushing closer to 17,000. Because we're still going to need the circulation. While the vertical circulation goes away, you're still going to need the horizontal circulation and everything. And basically, what we did is we took the 18,000, let's say 500 square feet. We backed out 2 stories worth of stairs, 2 stories worth of elevators, and that's how we came up with the 17. Let's say 17.5. So I definitely think we're going to be a little bit more strong. Little higher than that 15,000 square foot number, Lisa, that you're targeting.
Yeah, it was 2,500 square feet is what I had. I only added like 320 just for a corridor, but I wasn't taking any of your other corridors away in the layout. But again, you're going to need, yes, you need circulation, and it's possible that you'll need more than that 2,500. But it looked to me like it was doable. And I guess obviously I was concerned when everybody kept saying, well, it cost more to build a single story versus the double story. And I was concerned with the settlement. So
Yeah, I mean, right now, the numbers that I had shared, we were looking at about the same price between a 17,500 square foot single story and a 18,500 square foot second story. I mean, they were very, very close in pricing.
okay.
Based off of the differential in site costs that we have from our site contractor. Again, it was made with some assumptions. And then obviously adding in the elevator and everything, vertical circulation requirements of the two-story option. And again, that's outside of site constraints, whether it's dealing with the primary conduit and I mean, right now, what I'm showing is a very similar price. I'm not saying that a single story is going to cost more. My concern is that as we start to work through it, and if we need to start to dig in and consider relocation of that primary wire or anything else, and that will definitely add to the cost. And that's not $30,000. That's hundreds of thousands to deal with.
I didn't see where the primary line is on your site plan yet. It's in the parking area, right? The proposed parking area.
Yeah, it's from that pole basically straight through. So we have some room over there right now.
Yeah.
But that trying to avoid getting too close to the street and get that 17,500 square foot. It was a very tight squeeze in there.
Lisa, this is Kurt. Just a quick question for you. Setting aside for a moment the settlement issue, from a programmatic standpoint, Chief, this may be also something for you too. From a programmatic standpoint, what is the better option, the two-story or the single story, to meet your needs?
So it all depends upon the flow of the building. Do we have, so the two-story layout that we currently have proposed meets the flow requirements of the fire department so that we can get from point A to point B in a timely fashion. A single story takes out the vertical process, but it still has to be a straightforward flow. You can't be doing zigzags from the bedrooms or the day room or the kitchen area to get to the apparatus room. It's got to be a straight flow. So a single story design, which we really haven't worked on floor plan wise, would probably take some work to get to somewhere where we can get a good flow. No more than 2 90-degree turns, and from wherever you are to the apparatus room. That's the standard.
Yeah, I mean, with a like an L-shaped corridor, you could come down the back and turn, and I think we could come up with something that would have one or two at the most.
And the other factor is, all the dorm rooms, you want them to have windows. You can't put them in a box on an interior corridor wall. Interior stuff is good for training rooms, bathrooms, things like that. But all the living areas that you would consider, you got to consider this their house.
Yeah.
You want the kitchen, the living room, and stuff like that, the bedrooms to have natural light. It's important for your psyche and everything else. It's just really important to be able to have natural light and not just be stuck in a box somewhere.
Yeah, I assume that the dorm rooms would be on the back wall. on the first floor. If you were doing that, and you'd move all the administrative and the conference room and all that stuff towards the front of the building. Right.
Yeah, I would assume that as well. But again,
I guess we never realized, I guess we were only shown a 2-story building. We were never really looked at a single story. It jumped to 2-story without us really talking about it, I guess.
sure.
But again, like I said, cost and the compressible soils are my biggest concern, because you'll be the first one to hear it when we start seeing cracks in a masonry wall. Because we originally were said we couldn't even put this building here, if you recall. The public's aware of that. So.
Yeah. So this is where the civil engineering part comes in. If we were to build a 2-story structure there, we would have to make sure that whatever we did underneath that structure, it's going to support without cracking down the road. And I know that would be extremely important.
Yes, and that cost, I mean, obviously you're going to have larger foundations and you're going to have more rebar. It can be done. I'm not saying it can't, but I question that it's the least costly or the best way to go. That's just my opinion, my own opinion. Everybody else is entitled to theirs as well.
Sure.
And we would need geotech input also, obviously.
Thomas, this is Tim. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yep.
You're a little quiet, but we can kind of hear
All
you.
right,
Yeah.
I'll try to speak up. I'm the commissioner's representative for the building committee. And while Lisa and the chief have done a great job of sharing their concerns, a couple other things that I wanted to point out were having that meeting room on the second floor is not, in our opinion, the best location if we're going to use it for multi-purpose community space. Preference would be to have it on the first floor. We understand that having to move things to the second floor. So that's one area that came up that we talked about. The other was if the cost is similar for either a single story or a 2-story solution, it would be easier to sell to the taxpayers if it was a single floor, for all the reasons you've discussed, but also the ongoing maintenance to heat and light those staircases and to maintain and inspect an elevator and those types of things. So I think the commissioners would lean towards, if the pricing was similar, towards the 1-story solution, knowing that we're making some compromises, but that it would be easier to get past the taxpayers.
I think that's very well said, and very good information. Chief, I don't know if you have any additional thoughts or.
Nope. In the end, ultimately, I think most of this comes down to pricing. If we can show the taxpayers that we went through a very diligent process, and our proposal shows where we made multiple adjustments to make sure that we're presenting them with the most affordable solution that still meets the district's needs, I think that's the best we can do.
I mean, what I'm hearing from this conversation, it sounds like it may be the desire, assuming costs are similar, to stick with a single story structure. That's what I'm hearing from this conversation.
I think I'm hearing the same. Tim, do you feel that's the way we should be looking at? You're muted.
Yeah, that would be my interpretation. I think Paul would like to say something, but I don't think we were able to hear you, Paul.
Yeah, I'm struggling with the headset. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We
Okay,
can.
good. Thank you. I'm Paul Blaisdell. I'm the chairman of the building committee, and I would just like to circle back to some of Lisa's data, which, Lisa, if you could show that evaluation of two-story versus one-story document. Perfect. Now, what Lisa did here in the top section was she looked at all of the existing areas, and there are 5 times where she questioned, can we reduce the size of those rooms? And one of the things that we have been struggling with as a committee is, with a 2-story building, your first floor really dictates what the second floor is going to look like as far as square footage. Whereas when you throw this on a single story, do we really need a 1,000 square foot conference room?
Yes.
Do we really need 437 square feet for 48 lockers? And of course, the answer is no. So that in addition to the 720 or so square feet that Lisa projected on the first floor reduction, we can also reduce, I feel, the that second floor square footage to gain even more benefit to a single story building. And I would add my personal opinion, and that is that a single story building would be preferential. And I really feel that we're being driven as a committee to look at things like parking spaces, and we should not be dictating the size and shape of this building to ensure that we have a parking lot filled with empty parking spaces. We need enough parking for our men. We need enough parking for the public, but we don't need a 3/4 acre parking lot in the event that we have one meeting once a month in the upstairs conference room that we need an elevator to get to. So I've spoken with the town Board of Selectmen with respect to borrowing, on occasion, the parking area in front of the DPW, which is immediately adjacent to the existing fire station in the northwesterly direction. And they have no problem with us using parking there. So I don't want to get hung up on ensuring that we have 20 or 30 parking spaces. So that's my opinion. Thank you, Lisa.
No, thank you also, Paul. Ellis, Kurt, I don't know if.
Yeah, so the parking on the east side, that is just temporary parking for those meetings you mentioned. From the previous discussions we've had, I'm not even sure the parking that we show on the west side and the north side is enough for during the changeover in the shifts. I don't have exact numbers on how much you need. I estimated it to be about 16 parking spaces. And that's for during the changeover. I'm assuming that during the changeover, we wouldn't use either the expansion parking to the east or the borrow any parking from the DPW, correct?
That's correct. Now we have 4 shift members today. This building is set up with 4 dorms plus 2 student dorms. So if you double the shift members, that's 8 parking spots for shift changeover. And there might be a 1-hour overlap where there'll be all 8 vehicles there. The rest of the time, there'll be only 4. So I just don't want to get hung up on this with regard to ensuring that we have a huge parking lot.
Paul, for employee parking, we need 14 spaces.
Or what?
14. So we also have the administrative manager, the administrative assistant, the chief, the deputy chief, code enforcement. So that, it's not 8, it's closer to 14 when you add all those spaces up for employees.
And what is the available parking on the east side of the building? I'm sorry, on the west side by DPW?
I don't know what they proposed over there. I haven't really don't
Well,
know.
I'm looking at Lorero's, it's Lorero's plan view, and
I can share the latest site plan if you'd like.
I see 5 spots to the west of the building and 2 to the front.
Yeah, Joe, go ahead and share it.
Here it is. I'm zooming a little bit for you guys.
Okay, that's a total of 15, including the 3 spaces by the accessible space.
Plus the parking lot on the east side, right?
Well, that's really just meant for overflow during like those occasional conference meetings. I'm not saying you can't use it on a regular basis, but it wasn't really meant for regular parking.
So it sounds like theoretically we could expand on the eastern end, potentially lose a row of parking if the town's facility is available for overflow and
Well,
maintain the handicap parking up front.
Yeah, the issue with expanding east is that electric conduit. But if we can consider that parking to the east to be used on a regular basis, that obviously frees up more room on the west and north for additional square footage.
Good idea. You're essentially flipping it over.
Yeah, it's just those the truck bays on the west side. You don't want to push them too far west because they need access. And you can see even on that aerial, the DPW parking is not too far away.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this, Ellis, and I'm wondering how much we really can slide it over. I mean, in the event that something ever happens with the site next door, I mean, it's.
Yeah, I think either way, you'd have to get an easement on the DPW property, no matter what, only because of those bays in the back.
All right. Well, I think this is something that we can work on. I think it's workable. It's just something that we have to look at and figure it all out.
Well, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think what we need is better communication between the desires of the commissioners and the desires of the building committee. Being able to express that more consistently and more definitively to the gentleman at Lorero. To me right now, for us to be having this discussion seems almost ridiculous because we've been beating the same drum for the better part of 2 years, which is that this building needs to be as small as possible in order to meet the needs of the department, and cost is going to be a driving factor. And in order for us to get this passed, we need to make sure that everybody in both towns realizes that we've worked hard to do that. And I'm a little frustrated because it seems like we have our twice a month meeting and nothing filters to the gentleman at Lorero. So that's something that we need to work on ourselves.
Anybody have anything else to add?
The only thing I'd like to add is a huge thank you to everyone at Lorero for enduring this process. This is probably way longer than what you typically see, but being a fire district with multiple towns involved in multiple tax bases in different counties, it's very difficult for our communities to reach a consensus. So I would like all of you to know how much we appreciate your diligence and your hard work. And, you know, if we're lucky, we'll get a warrant article passed and get you moving in the correct direction. So I'd just like to say thank you to all of you for that.
Hey, Paul, we're all a team here. I've met all of you and personally and everything. We're all a team here, and that's what we're here. We're here to work together and make this work. So this thing passes finally, and you get your fire stations up and running. So we're on the team, and there's no apology needed. I mean, Mike's been great to work with as well.
I'd like to add that this meeting was extremely helpful, and maybe we want to, as we move still forward in the process, that we might have another meeting like this so that we can finalize it, finalize the plans and get you going.
Yeah, and Lisa, we can set this up anytime. I mean, we're all in different locations, right? We're all over the place. I mean, even the chief right now is in his vehicle. I mean, team seems to be the best way to communicate, and I mean, it does work well. And as you see today, we can share screens, we can do all this stuff. So, I mean, we'll set these up as many as you need to. I mean, it's not a problem.
It's very, very helpful.
Okay.
All right. Going forward, would you like Lorero to start working on a one-story floor plan for us to review, and keeping in mind how that floor plan is going to fit on the site?
Well, Chief, I think that's the consensus of Lisa and myself and also Tim, but I think we need to bring that before the entire committee, which will happen next week. So I think it's safe to say that we're leaning in that direction, but I would caution against having Lorero spend a lot of time without a formal mandate from the committee.
What day is your meeting?
It's next Monday evening. Is that correct?
It's Tuesday.
I think it's Tuesday.
Tuesday.
So that's okay, because actually Joe would be doing the heavy lifting on a floor plan, and he's actually out the next 2 days. So if you're meeting on Tuesday, it's right there. So I mean,
Okay.
Well,
Mike, when do you need like good estimates? It's got to be a deadline, right? Because you got to get all this paperwork into the system, and it's got to be done. Is it the end of October, early November? Is that the?
Well, I think what we need is to present to the public. We have to start talking to them sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
And what's the most important thing really is a not to exceed number, and some pictures of what it might look like, because the folks here are very visual, and I think they probably are everywhere.
Yeah.
They need to kind of look at something, and
Sure.
and for them to make decisions about themselves, if they like it or not. Paul, do you think anything different?
No, I think that's very accurate, sir. And I might add that public outreach is always critical on a community tax-based building, but in this case, it's going to be crucial. If there's one thing that's working against us right now, it's that we provide fantastic service out of two very old and decrepit buildings. And people say, I'm getting good service now. Why do we need to change anything? So it's certainly a double-edged sword for us, and to the chief's credit, the fire district does supply a very good service. So I think public outreach is going to be crucial. And I know, Tom, originally when we discussed hiring Lorero, that you had offered some public outreach resources. And I think we should really start to think about leveraging those and bringing something forward. I think even October is going to be pushing it. It's, we have to get warrant articles written and try to convince the public. So, yeah, I think sooner rather than later, for sure.
Okay, so this meeting on Tuesday night is critical, and then we'll take it from that point, and then we'll come back with you guys, so. And as far as the public outreach, I offered that, and I'm gonna offer it again. I mean, we're here to help you guys get this thing passed, so whatever you need, we'll get you. And if you have public meetings, I'll be at all of them if you want me to be there. I mean, it's.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So,
All right, I think,
yeah, let's just plan on, Chief, you get back to us after the meeting on Tuesday, and we'll probably talk right before that anyways, but I think that, like Lisa said, today was a very good meeting, and we made some progress, and let's keep this process going along.
I agree. It's a very good meeting.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good to meet you all.
Thank you.